my name is Shui from SETK 3552 Section 2. Today, I'm here with my teammate Muhammad Shamirul Izam to share with you all about the hazards of harvesting palm oil from 20-meter heights.
Hello everyone, before we proceed any further, let's understand what is HIRA. HIRA is a compound word made up of 3 consecutive activities running one after the other. The activity consists of hazard identification, risk assessment, and risk control. Hazard identification is the recognition of things that may cause injury or harm to a person. Risk assessment is the looking of the possibility of injury or harm occurring to a person if exposed to a hazard. Risk control is the introduction of measures that will eliminate or reduce the risk of a person being exposed to a hazard. Hazard is a close relationship with the risk. Risk is a measurement to analyze and evaluate the hazard. The risk level measurement is made by identification on how severe the risk is and the likeliness of the hazard to happen in a workplace. Relative risk value can be calculated by multiplying the likelihood with the severity value. The likelihood value is assigned based on the probability of a hazard to occur. Assessing likelihood is based on worker experience, analysis, or measurement. Likelihood levels range from most likely to inconceivable, while the severity is divided into 5 categories, from the least rating, negligible, until the highest one, which is catastrophic. Severity is based upon an increasing level of severity to an individual's health, the environment, and property. The relative risk value can be used to prioritize necessary actions to effectively manage workplace hazards. Low relative risk value is considered acceptable, but if it can be solved efficiently, then control measures should be undertaken. A medium risk requires a planned approach to controlling the hazard and applies temporary measures if required. A high risk requires immediate action to control the hazard as detailed in the hierarchy of control. There are 6 types of control designed to deal with the hazard. The most effective control is elimination, where the hazardous job, tool, process, machine, or substance is getting rid of or eliminated. Substitution deals with the hazard by replacing the hazard source with a safer one. The isolation control method isolates or contains the hazard to keep it away from workers. Engineering control involves in changing the way that a job activity is performed in order to reduce risk. Administrative controls are controls that alter the way of work is performed. They may consist of policies, training, standard operating procedures, and work schedules. The least effective control method is personal protective equipment, used as a last line of defense and acceptable when engineering or administrative controls cannot provide sufficient protection.
So now, let's look into the main topic of today's video. Harvesting is considered the most important task in the oil palm plantation. The palm oil is harvested several times a month, as the fresh fruit bunch has to be harvested as soon as it is ripe in order to achieve a high oil value. In general, palm oil can grow as tall as 20 meters. So, as the palm grows, the fresh fruit branch will definitely move further away from the ground. Thus, the tools used in harvesting tall and shorter palm oils are different. And also, the weight of each palm oil ranges from 10 kg to 50 kg depending on the age of the palm. So, let's look into the first activities of harvesting the palm oil. Without having any doubts, a palm oil worker is responsible to patrol and work in the oil palm plantation every day. So, he or she might face the bites by bees, mosquitoes, snakes, and so on every day. The likelihood for this hazard is 4, which means that this hazard has a good chance of occurring, and it is not an unusual situation. The severity for this hazard is 2, as it might cause him or she to fall sick from that, but not a permanent injury. So, the risk level is 8, which is in the medium level, and we are suggesting them to destroy and remove the nest of bees regularly. In addition, they have to discharge unwanted containers or junks that can collect rainwater to prevent the mosquito breedings, and move the grass regularly to keep it short. Installing a perch pole is also necessary. Besides, as the oil palm plantation is an outdoor working area, so the workers will have a very high possibility of exposure to sunlight and lightning every day, and this might cause them in dehydration, cold, cough, or fever with the likelihood of 4, severity 1, and risk level of 4, which is classified as low risk. To reduce this potential hazard, the owner of the oil palm plantation should provide drinking facilities and shelters for the workers. Since working in oil palm plantation is a low-wage, long working hours and precarious work, so mental stress is a common problem faced by long-term workers. The likelihood for this hazard is 3, as this is a problem that might be occur at some time in the future. And the severity is 2, with the risk level of 6, which is in the medium level. To reduce this risk level, job rotation is necessary to be implied by limiting the working hours according to the Malaysian employment law for the workers to take their time to recharge and continue to work later on.
The second activity is palm fruit harvesting tools preparation and maintenance. This activity is in both seekers and chasers, where the identified hazard is related to sharp tools. The sharpening process of the tools might exert several potential consequences such as cuts and first aid type of injury. For risk analysis, the likelihood of this hazard is 5, as the preparation of the tools occurs daily, while its severity is only 1, as it only involves minor injury. So relative risk or risk level is 5 multiplied by 1, which is equal to 5, and categorized as medium level. The hazard can be controlled by wearing gloves as PPE and securing the sharp area by using a cover. The third activity is oil palm fruit harvesting. There are 3 potential hazards have been identified, which are gravity and falling objects, working at height and slips, and lastly is sharp thorn. Workers are exposed to hazard during harvesting activity, as a bunch of oil palm fruit might fall on them and cause fatal injury. The likelihood of this hazard is 5, as it is most likely to happen, while the severity is 4, as it exerts fatal injury. 5 multiplied by 4 is 20, so it is a high risk level, thus immediate precaution is needed. Workers should always wear safety helmets as PPE, and the authority should set a minimum distance between workers and oil palm fruit free fall projectile motion. For potential hazard number 2, which is working at height, it usually occurs at the hilly area for terrace palm oil plantations. Workers might fall from height or slip due to the terrain conditions. The likelihood of this hazard is 5 and its severity is 3, a serious but non-fatal injury. The risk level is equal to 15 as a high level of risk. Proper control measure is needed immediately, such as workers need to wear proper boots as PPE to prevent slipping and always train on correct positioning of pole length. Potential hazard number 3 for oil palm fruit harvesting activity is sharp thorn. It could cause a minor injury or cut due to the sharp thorn exposed on the tree branch, trunks, and the other side or tips or fronds. For the risk analysis, the likelihood of this hazard is 5, multiplied by 1 as its severity for minor injury. The risk level is equal to 5, which is a medium risk level. So, while precaution and planning for the next longer period are needed to avoid this hazard, wearing tough gloves is recommended.
Next, when collecting the palm oil harvested, the potential hazard for this activity are muscular stress, lifting, carrying, and ergonomic. This is due to the awkward position during lifting, carrying, or putting down the palm oils every day onto a mini truck or an open truck. The likelihood for this hazard is 5, as this is the most likely result of the hazard being realized, and the severity is 3, which will cause a serious and permanent disability to the workers with the risk level of 15, which is classified as high risk level, and immediate action should be taken on it. In addition, the actions taken must be documented on the risk assessment form, including the date for completion. To reduce this hazard, the workers must practice the correct posture during lifting, carrying, or putting the heavy load. In addition, the owner can give them a proper training on this by hiring professional trainers to teach them the correct posture. Besides, the worker might also fall, trip, and slip when collecting the palm oil harvested, as the ground of plantation is not that flat and might be slippery after raining. The potential consequences from this hazard are fall of person and even broken legs, with the likelihood of 4, severity 2, and risk level of 8, which is classified as medium risk. To reduce the chance of happening, the workers should always wear slip-resistant boots to prevent slips and falls.
The last activity is transporting the harvested oil palm fruit. The oil palm fruit is usually transported by specialized vehicles such as lorry. Bad terrain condition might cause the vehicle to lose control and involve in an unwanted scenario. The carelessness of the driver also needs to be counted. The likelihood of this hazard is equal to 4, while its severity is 5. Multiplying both of the values would give the risk level equal to 20, which is a high risk level. In order to control the hazard, the driver must always be in a good condition. Note the inside out of the farm terrain, be aware of the blind spot, and always be concerned about the vehicle status and condition. In conclusion, we must aware that every activity that we are doing daily has its own risk, no matter big or small, including the oil palm fruit harvesting activity. HIRAC, for its full name, Hazard Identification, Risk Assessment, and Risk Control, has become fundamental to the practice of planning, management, and the operation of business as a basic risk management. By applying the HIRAC procedures, the risk from the source of hazard can be limited or at least be minimized in order to create a safe workplace for everyone. That's all for this video. Feel free to like and share, stay safe, and thank you so much for watching until the end.